Hello and welcome back to My Career So Far.
It's episode 2 of series 2 and we've got a absolutely brilliant guest. Dare I say, one of the best that we've had so far in the whole podcast.
The loveliest person. He's the most open we've had, and the person we're talking about is Matt Foister, who is just... I think we're both still in shock at how good he was.
Yeah.
He's so open.
Such a great storyteller.
Yeah, and we can't wait for you to hear this, to be honest. I'd have more words, but I'm quite stunned. Yeah, so here's Matt Foister's episode. And stay, please, because he has some really good stories.
My Career So Far.
Matt Foister, hello.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Good.
This is. Guys, I've got to say, this is the weirdest thing ever, right? And I told both my kids in the car this morning, going to school and college, I've never done this before ever. So I have no idea. I could be rubbish at being asked stuff. This is the wrong way round. It shouldn't be like this.
No, I like it. I like the fact that you've done nothing like this before.
No, never. So it could be just dreadful. The story could be quite boring and not very interesting, and you might want to... It could be the shortest episode ever. That 10-minute pod they did, do you remember? With that lanky fella.
So that's the end of the episode. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. Next week, Joe Ross.
Oh, this is going to be a great one. I can already sense it.
Right, so how did you first get into radio?
I think it's quite a unique way. And I've not heard anybody say this before. I was only about maybe 7 or 8, right? And my auntie and uncle lived in Canada, in Vancouver, and we used to record cassettes for them. So you guys probably aren't aware of the work of cassettes, are you?
No.
Those tiny little spools of tape. You plug a mic in, and we used to record like tapes and then post them to them rather than write letters. And I used to really enjoy it. And I think that's the very first time I became interested in stuff like that. And when recording them at a really young age, I used to think, oh, they can't picture what we're wearing or where we're sat or who's here, who from the family's here, and I'd describe it, and I was always thinking about them listening. And I think that was the start of me getting into radio. Around about the same time, I became obsessed with Radio 1 as well. That was always, I only ever wanted to do the Radio 1 breakfast show. That was it. And it was the summer of 1990 when I became obsessed with the road show. And I saw a kid in Sainsbury's in town wearing a Radio 1 t-shirt. My God, they do merch. You can buy Radio 1 merch. Fast forward 3 years, I had everything. Baseball caps, pens, sweatshirts, all the t-shirts. I'd go to school on Own Clothes Day in Radio 1 merch without feeling any embarrassment. Now, yeah, Kira, you laugh, and you're right to mock. What parent would ever let their kid go to school on Own Clothes Day in Radio 1 merchandise? Yeah, I was that obsessed with it. I did. I think that's when it all kind of started, really, for me, the passion and the bug set in.
That's really interesting. Although I wasn't laughing to mock you. I was laughing because...
You were a bit, Kel.
No.
Josh, we all saw it, right? We all saw it happen.
I wasn't laughing to mock you. I was like, I've never heard anything like that before.
Oh, I used to have the T-shirts. And even now, my daughter still wears my old Radio 1 T-shirts as bed shirts. Because I've still got them. And the Gary Davies T-shirts, the Breakfast Show T-shirts, we still have them. I mean, there's a few geeks out there. Stephanie Hurst will understand. There's a few geeks out there. You got to get the merch, right? There's people like Alec Feldman, who you may know of, who collects all the mugs. He'll get it as well. You know, he's into the same kind of thing. It's not just me out there, guys.
The type of people that follow like radio mugs on Twitter.
That's it. That's us. There's
Niche reference.
Niche reference, yeah. Their follow just went right up.
I have several radio mugs though, so I do have some merch.
Do you?
I can see like 3
Oh, God.
in the distance here. There was, anyway. We all had them this morning. But I do have some merch myself.
Good, that's good to know. And even now, even yesterday, starting the Barnsley radio thing, people still ask for the merch. Do you have T-shirts? Do you have pens? Do you have... No, we can't afford it now. Do you have car stickers? No. They're a thing of the past. They are.
How did you first get, what was your first radio job then?
So it was, I think it was, there's lots of luck involved, isn't there? And you meet lots of people who just create the path for you. And the first key person I met was my careers teacher at school, Mrs. O'Reilly. It was a Catholic school I went to. And nobody had ever said to her before, oh, I want to work in radio. I think I'd like to be a radio presenter. because normally you have to go to where your mum works or where your dad works for work experience. And she said, well, I've never got anybody into a station before work experience. I'll try and do it for you. And every time I saw her around school the following few weeks, she said to me, I've tried Radio Leicester. They said no. I've tried Radio Nottingham, because I'm from Loughborough. Tried Radio Nottingham. They said no. I've tried Trent FM. They said no. I've tried Leicester Sound, Ram FM. They're all saying no. I said, well, don't worry about it. You've given it your best shot. I'll go to TSB like everybody else does. And it was her last attempt. She phoned. I didn't know this, but there's a huge student radio station in Loughborough, from Loughborough Uni, called LCR. And I was 14 at the time. And she said, look, they say you can go in and sit on a show. I had no idea there was a big radio station at this big uni. I knew about the uni, but not about the station. And I went. I was 14 years old, and I met a guy called Clive Hilton, who was in charge of the station there. And I watched Campus Reports, it was called, go out, and it was really good. And he said to me, do you want to come in at the weekend and sit in on my weekend breakfast show that's music-based? And I went in there, did that. And because they all went home during the summer, as students tend to, and I lived around the corner, they gave me a key to the studio. So during the summer, I could go in and I could organise the record library. I could record demos, mess about with the studios. And they heard me doing some stuff, and they gave me a show. So I was 14 years old, and I'd go and do a Friday night show on a student radio station. And again, a bit like the kid wearing the merch, I don't think for a second this is just crazy. I had these 18, 19, 20-year-old students watching me do this radio show. And because it was my passion, I was so in love with it, I wasn't shy or embarrassed or frightened by them staring me out through these windows. And I did that, and then from that I went on and did some weekend breakfast shows. We used to get like an FM license every October for 4 weeks. Did the breakfast show, the weekday breakfast show 1 year, doing that. And that's kind of how it started. Then from then I went to college and did a media course. I met some other key people as well that kind of were a big part of my life.
What was it like having that sort of freedom at such a young age to muck about and do all of that in like a student radio station?
Yeah, just brilliant. And people always talk about hospital radio being great, and that is good. And I did a bit of that, but I wasn't as good at that because there were too many rules there. And I found the student radio what I found is that you can be as good or as bad as you want, right? Because no one's saying to you, you got to prep your show. No one's saying to you, can I see your format? Can I see what's on your show? It's down to you. And so most of the time, most of the students at the radio station at LCR would just turn up with, pick a record out of the library and just have nothing planned. Yeah, I'd go in with a running order and my TV feature prep, my showbiz feature prepped. I brought mates in to talk to, and they all thought it was a bit probably geeky. But I remember the big turning point being one of the Freshers Weeks one year, and we did a big outside broadcast. And these other presenters, these mates of mine, just crumbled because they couldn't do stuff in front of a crowd that wasn't planned. Yeah, because I planned this show, I was all right. And they kind of realised that actually, it's fine to put the work in, it's fine to prep. And from that point on, I've always probably over-prepped everything. I was kind of known for that a little bit back in the day. That you always, even like at Hallam when I was on drive, there'd be people there who wouldn't prep as much, and you get the mickey taken a little bit. But I think the more you're armed with, the more you can abandon to do stuff that comes along. I always find. That's what I always did, and it was just a great training ground. I love student radio. I think it's a great thing, really great thing.
I think it's better as well to over prep than under prep a show.
Completely. Who preps your show? Who's the prepper out of you two?
Both of us.
A bit of both.
You both do it.
Yeah.
That's good. I find that it doesn't work when, and I've done a few shows like this, when one of you preps really well and one of you doesn't. That's hard work, and so you're lucky that you both do that. When you go in and one person's got the ideas or the answers, the other person just wants to turn up and get paid, that's when you get a few problems, and when there's no gelling there of the gang.
I think it helps that we became friends as a result of student radio, and so we've already got this like natural friendship that's like been bonded by being on the radio together. But yeah.
Do you prep together or separately, then meet in the middle? What do you do?
Ooh.
Depends. I think currently, because we're not in the same location, separately. But like when we're both in Salford, we prep together. So it depends where we are.
Yeah, it's great. And isn't it great when you find when you're both on the same page and you know that? See, I can't work out if the best links are the ones that you've prepped together, or the ones where you've just got a headline or a subject. You know, when I did a breakfast show on Heart with Sarah Lilly, and it was brilliant. And we found together that if you just give the headline before, car boot sales, bought a bargain, so the person knows what you're going into rather than taking the person by surprise completely, can work as well as, well, I'll say this and you go with the story and I've got an end. And do you know what I mean?
This always happens with the podcast. They always turn the questions on us when it should be the other.
This is what I've heard. I heard Joe Russell's podcast. I heard Danny Milo's, because it's interesting because we're used to asking the questions. We can't not ask questions. It's an illness.
Get well soon.
It's highly unlikely, Josh. It really is.
But I think it's good to prep in student radio, though, because there is, I think when we prep a lot and some people go, why are you prepping so much? But then
that's what I had. Yeah,
you hear the payoff and people hear the show that we do, the podcast that we do, and they go, well, that's really impressive. How do you do it? And then we pull out a massive Google Doc and go, there you go. That's how we did it. But some people just don't want to prep, and I think that hinders their show sometimes.
Yeah, but you know what? I think sometimes now, and I've recently worked with a lot of people like this. I think they think it's uncool to prep, but a lot of the time, those people have actually prepped. You might not see it on a sheet of A4, but they've driven in thinking of the link. They've got it on their phone. They want to look like they're texting or doing a Deliveroo, but it's actually show notes on there. They'd rather, I think they think it's quite cool I can just do a show without prepping. But why? You want the best show, that's what it's about.
Yeah. So where did you go after student radio then?
So I stayed there so 14 I joined there, and I was there up until I think about 19, 20. But so when I left school, I went to do a college course in Nottingham, did a media course. And again, it's the people you meet. Is it luck, or do you create these chances yourself? I don't know. But on the media course, one of the lecturers was a guy called Paul Randall. He was a great guy, and he worked as a reporter and a producer at the BBC. And on a Saturday night, he used to do the outside broadcast feature on Dean Jackson's The Beat, which went out on Radio Nottingham at the time. So he was a lecturer, and he said to me they were looking for somebody to drive the radio car. No, it was called the Beat Buggy. It's called the Beat Buggy, which sounds exciting. What it was a Sierra Estate that was about 20 tons in weight with a big radio mast in the back of it. Now, I was having driving lessons at the time. So I thought, well, I can't do that because I'm no use to it. I can't drive the car. And again, was it just meant to be? I've always been rubbish at exams, but I passed that driving test first time. And literally 3 or 4 days later, I was sat in this Sierra Estate. This is the first car I ever drove, this huge car, driving around Nottingham, doing these outside broadcast features with Paul that would go back into Dean's show. We'd do stuff like, there's a game called Chip Shop Challenge we did. The Ice is Right in the summer with ice cream vans. We deliver pizzas, we mess about, we'd go to festivals. Then the show got bigger, it went out over Lincoln as well, and Derby and Leicester. So it became a bigger patch to drive around, and that's what we did. And I was there for probably about 18 months, 2 years on Saturday nights. And Dean Jackson, again, is a lovely, lovely fella. We're kind of back in touch now a little bit. And he was a teacher, still is, and he used to bring his students in to get some work experience. And so he had this great training ground for new people. And I did that, and the BBC was empty on a Saturday night, so I'd go and make demos. And I'd just make demos, and I would send demos off to radio stations. And I got this ready, right? Because I knew I'd be seeing you today. Look at this. Right, now, I recently showed this folder to Wes Butters. You know Wes at Hits.
Yeah.
Wes, mate of mine. Can you see this, right? So this here it's a scrapbook. These are all the rejection letters, okay? Because I had no idea. You used to get this radio authority handbook that had every radio station in the country in it. So you could go through and get the address. So each Saturday I'd go in, I'd say to Dean, I'm going to go and record a demo. Dean, who should I record it for? And he'd give me 2 or 3 stations. I didn't know where these stations were or what they were about or what kind of music they played. I'd make a demo. And so I got rejected. Of course I did. Trent FM, no vacancies, 1994. What else have we got? Virgin Radio, 1996. Keep your info on file. Thanks for your demo. XFM, 97. No job going there. Links FM, the group I went to work for, 97. Too laddish. Not for us. Essex Radio 97. Nothing going here. We'll keep your details on file. Keeps going. Capital, Galaxy 101, Magic B9. Where even is B97? Where was it? It was in Bedford in 97. No, Fox FM. They didn't want me. Well, the Signal Radio, Virgin again, Capital again, XFM again, Essex, Kiss 100. That's what I did. I'd made demos, post them in jiffy bags, get rejected. To the point where you think this is never going to happen. This is not, there's no point. And Dean would be like, hey, keep on going, do some more demos. Try the Irish radio stations. Try Call FM. Dean, how am I going to get there? He said, well, you worry about this if you get a job. And it wasn't happening. It was taking so long. And when I left my college course, I carried on doing the beats with Dean and Paul and Emma Clifford and the gang there. And I got a job in Homebase. Have you heard of Sainsbury's Homebase, the DIY store?
Yeah.
Yes.
You've heard of that? So I went there, did a few hours a week eventually, then went full-time when I left college. And I've never, ever told this story before. I'm working in Homebase, and my colleagues are quite interested in the fact that I'm doing student radio. It's quite exciting because it's up the road in Loughborough around the corner. And I hated that job. It was, you want to work in radio, you love radio, and there you are stacking paint on a Monday morning or ordering sheds. I got a forklift truck license to make it more exciting when I was there, but this is just, I don't want to be doing this. It was depressing, ironmongery, screws and nails. We used to start at 5 o'clock in the morning putting bloody screws on pegs. I just want to work on the radio and mess about, talk to people. It was awful. But there was a radio station called Homebase FM, right? And on a Friday morning, between 8 and 9, there was an unknown commercial presenter called Scott Mills who did the staff show, right? And every Friday, they'd invite different teams in from Homebase to sit in on the show. And Simon Gates was our operations manager, who worked in the cash office. And he said, let's go and be on the staff show. And we were like, our boss is never going to give us all the day off on the same day. Mr. Farmer's never going to do that. And he did. We caught him on a good day. He gave about 6 or 7 of us the same day off. We went down, and there was some of the people who had started doing student radio with me, my mates. There was Adam, and there was Johnny, and there was Paul. We went down together, did the staff show. And the day before, he said, get a load of demos, and we'll go around London afterwards, dishing out your demos. This is the operations manager of Homebase in Loughborough. Met Scott, did the staff show, lovely. We went to Kiss, we went to Radio 1, we went to Capital, we went all over dropping off demos. And the following week, I got a phone call from somebody at Capital. And it was amazing because back in the day, at Homebase, you couldn't have your phone with you, but you had a store phone. And I'm not sure if you can do it now, but you could dial 07973 100 123, right? Press 1, then enter your mobile phone number, press 1, enter your PIN number, and it would say, you have no new messages. And one day it was, you have 1 new message. And there was a guy called Russ Evans who was in charge of the music at Capital. I didn't know this, but there was a thing called the Capital Radio Cafe, which is, if you imagine a TGI Fridays or a Frankie and Benny's, and underneath Capital FM, it's still there now in London, but I think they're converting it into their reception area now. There was a little cafe, and in there they'd do burgers and overpriced fries and milkshakes and cocktails. But there was a studio in the middle of it, and they would have a presenter doing a show to people that came in at the weekend. And they asked me to do the 12 till 6 show on a Saturday. So I'm living in Loughborough, so it's about 2 hours away. And they paid me £60 a show, right? It was £30 I paid for parking all day and £25 fuel. So I made £5 right, for a 6 hour. Imagine now, £5 for a 6-hour radio show. But it was brilliant because I'd be at Homebase during the week, and then annoyed at paint and screws. Then you go down at the weekend, and you'd be mobbed like a pop star because you'd have bands on like Bewitched and Five. We had Jordan Knight in one weekend from the New Kids on the Block, and it was full of people who were, some were there for burgers and fries, some were there for the music because it was part of the Capitol building, and it was just brilliant. And we did that for a good couple of years, and that was exciting. That was all from handing out those demos from Homebase. And then one Saturday, there was a knock on the studio door because people are coming in and ask for requests and stuff. And it was a guy. Have you ever seen Friends and Joey's agent? What's she called in Friends, Joey's agent?
Let me Google this. Hold the line.
Let's say Estelle.
Agent friends.
She's now
Yeah,
Googling.
Estelle. Correct.
Estelle, right?
10 points.
And Tony Fox was a little bit like that. He always had a cigarette on, and he always spoke with the breath after the cigarette. So it was always, yeah, Matt, yeah, I'm an agent, Tony Fox, Fox Enterprises, and he had working for him Jamie Theakston, Chris Moyles, Keith Chegwin, and Helen Sharman, first woman in space. And he was in the cafe having a burger with his son. He said, "Listen, I like what you do. Do you want to come and have a meeting with me?" And so I phoned in sick at Homebase the following Wednesday and went to Shepherd's Bush in London and met him. And he said, "What do you want to? What do you want to do? What do you want to do?" I said, "I want the Radio 1 breakfast show. That's what I want." And I went in to try and impress him. I went in with folders, lever arch folders full of running orders of shows that I'd done, because I thought that's the way to impress an agent. All these demos I'd made over the years that stations had sent back with their rejection letters. I had all these demos. And about a week later, he phoned me and he'd cut, because my demos are always about 10, 15 minutes long, which is perhaps a bit too long now, thinking about it. And he'd made a 3-minute demo and he played me it down the phone. And it was so roughly made. And you know, when you get like OCD about editing, I'm sure when you guys make this, you think you want it to be the best you can be, and he'd made this demo so roughly. He said, "I'm going to send it to Radio 1." I was like, "Well, it don't sound very good. Let's do it properly." And off he went. And it was about a month later. Picture the scene, right? I'm sat on the forklift truck in the warehouse at Homebase, and I check the phone again. "You have one new message." "Matt, yeah, it's Tony. Radio 1 want you." "What?" I'm on the forklift truck about to unload a lorry full of sheds. And my mate, Paul Bird, who had been to the student shows with me, was the warehouse manager. I said, "Birdie, listen to this." And I played it to him. I said, that just happened?" He said, "Yeah." He said, they said that Radio 1 won you. And this was everything I'd ever wanted. This was it. This was the moment. And we went down, myself and Tony went down to Radio 1. I met a guy called Jeff Smith. And I didn't know this, and it took me a while to work it out. Jeff was leaving Radio 1 to go to Capital, and so he was getting people ready for Capital. And that's where I ended up doing overnights and doing like 2 years of cover stuff on Capital FM in London, which was still huge. What a massive station, a huge station. And people, I think it's a bit different now, but back in the day, you could do a phone in at any time on Capital. You would always get a full switchboard. At 3 o'clock in the morning, London never sleeps, it's always awake. Then overnight shows, a lot of weekend overnight shows. I did a bit of early breakfast as well before Chris Tarrant, which was just amazing. And that was it. And when I first started, I was still phoning in sick at Homebase until I had the courage to leave, until I knew it was going to give me a bit of money to dump off the, hanging up screws on pegs and putting out, raw plugs in Homebase. So it felt like it took a long time to come, but then suddenly you're somewhere quite major that people kind of aspire to throughout their entire careers. Do you know what I mean? It was all, in the end, it felt quite quick. Yeah, I'd know it'd take me about 3 or 4 years of doing all these demos and slogging away to try to achieve that. But yeah, I did think that it would be Radio 1, but it wasn't. It was Capital, which was kind of the next best thing, really. Do you know what I mean?
What was it like, sort of taking all of that rejection and then for a long time, and then suddenly getting this Radio 1 like Capital gigs? What was that like?
I think, and it's not. I don't mean it to sound cocky at all, but I know I had to do it. Right? It's the only thing I've ever been good at. I had to do it, and I believed in myself so much, and I knew that eventually, surely, there had to be a bit of light. There had to work out somehow. And I was so, I was just so, I suppose I'd manifested it that much without knowing it, that it was only, Josh, it had to happen. There was no, I couldn't stay in Homebase forever. And bear in mind, whilst I'm doing these demos and stuff, they're saying to me, "Why don't you go on management training and do a year's course at Derby Chaddiston?" I said, "I don't want to do that. I don't want to be here forever." If I'd have stayed now, I could have, be an area manager. But, I didn't want to do that. I knew I could do this. And people were supportive and told me, "Yeah, you can do it. Keep on going." I think the more times you get rejected, the more feedback you get, I think it makes you more determined. I really believe that. And I think if anybody falls into the job quickly, I don't think they're going to be as good or have as much longevity as somebody who's taken a few knockbacks, because you need that to make you a bit more thick-skinned. Because the second you get on air, you know what it's like. Everyone's got their knives out for you. They've all got some comments. You've got to be tough to do this game because people think they've got a right to cast their opinion and try and bring you down, you know. So you've got to get good at a bit of rejection.
And I suppose there's only so many raw plugs and sheds that one person can sell without going insane.
Mate, you'd be surprised. There's a lot of choice out there, mate, when it comes to raw plugs and sheds. Don't you be naive, Josh, about it. I'm telling you.
My career so far is not sponsored by Homebase.
The best times were around Christmas time. We used to work a night shift and build Christmas trees and build grottos and stuff. And we used to put Radio 1 on a ghetto blaster. And I would tape down the microphone on the tannoy and put it against the stereo so you could at least have the radio on in the shop at night. So it wasn't all bleak. We had our highs.
It's just it's the Homebase capital contrast that I like.
Mate,
the amount of manifestation.
Oh, okay. But nobody, and you'll understand why. Nobody at Capital knew that I was working at Homebase. You know, they'd all thought I'd come from something like Leicester Sound or Trent FM, or it's come through the ranks, through the regions. No. He's come from bloody the forklift truck in the Homebase car park. You know, that's how you ground yourself. You do the show before Chris Tarrant on a Monday morning, and then a few days later you're back in Homebase putting out trolleys at 7 a.m, taking chains off fire doors. I mean, that's a bonkers life, isn't it?
A very cool story.
Yeah, I've not told it publicly before ever. How about that?
Is that an exclusive for my career so far?
You flag it as that. Clip this bit in the tease at the start. I've never told it before ever. That'll hook them in.
So what happened after Capital then? Capital
was great. I loved it. And I think, it's when you look back, you always wish you'd done things differently, right? So Tony's business partner had a house in Walton-on-Thames, which is a good 40 minutes outside London. And I stayed there rent-free for a good period of time. Because it was so far out of London, I didn't go into London to socialise ever. It's like only recently now with the kids, we've gone to London for the weekend, their first trip to London. And we've been to Buckingham Palace, we've been to the Houses of Commons, and I didn't do those. I was saying to my wife, why didn't I do this sightseeing stuff when I was here, working before? But you don't when you're young. Yeah, I was bothered about radio and that was it. So I'd go in, do the shows, which are generally all overnight or early breakfast shows, with nobody around, and then I'd come home and then sleep, and then go back in and do it. I mean, early breakfast was like 2 hours. That was the most prepped 2 hours ever. Every word was written down because I was still prepping a lot. And I think because I was so young and I'd not gone through the commercial radio stages first to get there, I didn't really appreciate formats or sticking to a lot of the rules. And I think that was probably quite obvious when I listen back to those shows now. And I got a good 18 months, couple of years out of it. And then there was no, you'd get a contract for doing cover stuff. And then Jeff was making changes. It was the start of them bringing in celebs to do stuff as well. Cat Deal, Edith Bowman came in to do stuff. They had Richard Blackwood, the comedian, doing shows. There was the old guard who had been there were being squeezed out for this TV era we were going through. And I saw it kind of coming to an end for me. And it was Simon Ross, who's now on GHR Breakfast, Great Hits Radio. He left early breakfast and went to Radio Air in Leeds. And so I did his show for about 6 months. And then we stayed in touch, and he phoned me one day, said, how's it going? It's not, I don't think it's going to pan out for me. They use me, but not as much as before. And he said, well, they're looking for an evening show on Radio Air in Leeds. Why don't you come and meet the boss? I'd never been to Leeds before. And I went to Leeds and met Rossi and Mike Borden, lovely fella, who was the boss of Radio Air. I was showed Mike's office by his PA, who is now my wife, Catherine. And I did evenings for a couple of years, met Catherine, moved in together, and then from then went on to do Drive on Hallam, and then down to Suffolk to the breakfast show, where our son was born, then back to Leeds, where my daughter was born, and been here ever since. It's been quite the journey. A lot of miles have been done.
Wow, that was like...
Yeah. That was the quick version, Kira. Let's break it down.
Let's start with Radio Air. I mean, that was an iconic station.
Huge. It was huge. Yeah, and I loved it. And when I joined, it was a brilliant lineup. We had Ditchy on breakfast. We had Rossi on mid mornings. There was Ingrid. There was Simon Logan. There was Tony Wright on. There was some good people there. And I recall Mike saying that when he had to change breakfast, he said he could put any one of us onto breakfast shows. He was so proud of us that we were all doing different kinds of breakfast shows in the schedule. And it was a great place to be. I was there for a couple of years before going to do Drive on Hallam, which is, we live in Leeds now, we're still in Leeds. And it was great here because we're right on that motorway interchange, so I could get to South Yorkshire. And of course, going to Hallam, you got people like Big John was there at the time as well. Great, always been around great people. And a wonderful time, you know.
That was Big John. I feel like that was a name drop. That's...
Big John. I mean, I think he may be, of course he's finished now, but I think he may have been the longest serving breakfast presenter in the country. I think he did he do 25 years at breakfast?
Yeah.
25
Around
years.
about that, I think.
Wow. And he's always been good as well, annoyingly good. You know, there aren't, I find now, like back in the day, it was frustrating when you heard a presenter do a link that you wish you'd thought of, right, or an idea. That doesn't happen a lot now, because most commercial stations are doing the same kind of stuff, aren't they? But Big John still surprises now. He would, up until recently, he was still doing stuff, and I would think that's really good. I wish I'd thought of that for my guys at Hits, or I wish we'd done that on our show. You know, really, and a great work ethic as well. Always brilliant.
He's going to podcaster now because I noticed that he's doing like a Friday.
Big John at Breakfast Fridays is out. Yeah, and he spent some money on that. Have you heard it?
No.
Because he's got blooming brass bands and opera singers on there, and you should have a listen to that. He says, "No, and I, John, for your podcast, leave this bit in." He's it's good. He spent some dollar on that. I'm telling you, it's good.
Wow. Might have
Well
to
then.
have a listen to that.
That's good.
Of course, other podcasts are available.
Such as what, Josh?
My career so far.
Which has been your favourite episode so far, aside from this one when it's edited? Who's been your favourite guest so far? He's turned it around again. Turned it around again.
Oh.
Who was your favourite one? I like the Joe Russell one. The Milo one was good as well. But who's been your personal favourite?
This is such a cliche answer, but I don't think that I could choose a favourite purely.
Josh, give a bloody answer. Come on. Who's been your favourite guest? Because
No,
Kira's
but-
got an answer good to go. I can see it in her eyes.
No, but all of them have been like unique in their own.
It's the first and last name.
I don't want to upset people.
Kira, come on. Who's been your... Just give it... That's an answer. Your audience will respect the truth.
Dave Kelly.
Excellent answer. Who's been the worst?
No.
Just so you all know, in that gap there, Kira told us who the worst guest ever was on this podcast. And I know the answer. So drop into my DMs and I'll tell you.
This is horrible.
I wouldn't do that to you.
This is
I wouldn't do that
horrible.
to you.
Moving swiftly on. So we focused on air, but we didn't focus on Hallam.
Yes. I didn't see, again, I think because I've been so focused on Radio 1 throughout growing up, I didn't realise how big these radio stations were. And I went to Hallam. It was Gary Steen, actually, who was my boss recently at Hits as well. And I was doing, after Radio Air, I did a strange time where I did weekend breakfast on TFM and Hallam. So on a Saturday, I'd start at TFM, so I'd go up to Stockton and do 6 till 10. Then I'd go to Hallam, which is a big drive, and do 2 till 6 on the Saturday. And the Sunday morning, I'd do the reverse. I'd start at Hallam. No, I started at TFM, and then again went down the motorway and did Hallam. So I was doing 4 shows, 2 stations across 2 days. And I used to get a Mackie D's before my Hallam show. And this guy arrived back of the building, like he was in decorating gear and stuff, like he had paint all over him, whatever. And I let him in, and he said, "Oh, I'm Gary. I'm the new boss. This is Gary Steen." So I'm Matt. I'm doing weekends here. Shook his hand, had a little chat. And then the following week, I found out they were looking for. They wanted to put a double header on Drive. They had the girl half in place, Emma Wasden, and they wanted a fella to go with her. And I phoned Gary because we'd met in the canteen at Hallam. He said, "Yeah, come in, we record a pilot," and I did, and we got it, and we did Drive together with Emma for a couple of years, then a year by myself. And that year after Emma left just felt. I still really enjoyed it. I loved it, but it's so hard going from this double header that you've you've got sewn up and you have a great routine and a great life and the chemistry is there, it's good and the planning is good. And then when somebody goes and you're left with an empty chair, that's hard work. And I found that really hard. And that's why it was so brilliant when I could go to, it was Gary's deputy, was a guy called Dan Thorpe, who was from Ipswich. And he went back to be the programme controller of SGRFM, that then became Heart Suffolk. And he knew I wanted a breakfast show. And he went back to Ipswich and phoned me and said, look, I've got a breakfast show going, do you want to come and do it? And I was then part of a double act with Sarah Lilly, who was brilliant. So it was very similar to my days with Emma, getting back in that studio where you've got a mate in the chair opposite you, where you've got, and you know what it's like, you've got someone who's going through the same stuff you're going through, the pain of the 4 a.m. alarm clocks, when it's snowing in January, when there's that whole list of bloody school closures to do. You need a mate, and we had 3 glorious years. And my wife moved down as well, and we had our little boy Jack there. And I loved my time in Suffolk there, and I love working for Heart. I've always been a fan of what Heart does. It's a very clear brand. You just kind of knew, because it was so family focused and clear. The content was easy. If if there was a good scene in last night's Coronation Street, could we talk about it? Yeah, of course you can. You knew what would fit into it, what wouldn't fit into it, and I loved that. That was great. And it was a shame that it had to end, but they morphed stations together and they changed stuff around, and back to Leeds we came.
That would have been my patch, I think. Heart, Suffolk. Yeah.
Where are you from, Josh?
Oh God, yeah.
Lowestoft.
Yes, there you go. That would have been it. Yeah, was it? I'm sure we were. Or was that that's not the Norwich patch, is it? Is that Norfolk or?
Is it on the border? This is really technical, but so it's on the border between Norfolk and Suffolk. But for some reason, DAB wise, I can only access the Norfolk stations, but I can't access the Suffolk DAB stations. But yeah, it would have been your patch, I think, which is fun.
I loved it, and it was actually, thinking back now, it was quite brave of Dan to put me on breakfast, because I wasn't from the area. I didn't know anything about Suffolk, but Sarah was so. She was so brilliant, and she's on BBC Suffolk now, and she's done so well for herself, and she was just brilliant. She was so natural and funny. I knew the area really well, so she really saved me so many times on road names and place names and places you can't pronounce, which really gives away you're not from the area, doesn't it, when you can't say the place names, I find.
And there's so many places around here that are, they look like Wyndham. It's not spelt the way that it's meant to be spelt.
Exactly it. You got it. So you're there now in Lowestoft, are you, Josh?
Yeah. Going back up in a couple of days, but yeah.
All right. And where were you, Kira?
I'm in Salford. I moved back up yesterday.
Ah, good.
There's a lot of miles between us two at the moment.
Yeah. Which
is interesting. But I find the technical bits with your area, Josh, really interesting, because I don't have that problem.
What was your growing up and getting into radio? What were the stations you guys listened to?
Mine was The Beach, which is now GHR.
Mate, hang on. The Beach. Rejection.
Oh,
what date
beautiful.
July 3rd, 1998, dear Matt. Thanks very much indeed for your tape. I'm afraid there's no vacancies in our department of presentation. I'll keep your info on hand should anything change. Thanks for your interest in 103.4, The Beach. And what about you, Kira? What's your local station? I'll try and find a letter.
Oh, I don't think you'll have it because it morphed several times. Beacon, which morphed into Free Radio.
Oh, I think the closest I can do to Free is probably a BRMB.
Oh, no, we'll take that. Same station.
Let me see if I've got a rejection letter from BRMB.
Are these arranged in alphabetical order, mate, or is it just order?
Date order of failure. Do you know what? I don't think I must have been rejected from BRMB at some point. I don't think I ever was. Well, I might do a demo. Are they going still?
Well, they actually are. That's the thing. They're back now.
Yeah.
They're back now.
BRMB's
Are they back?
They're back.
Really good?
Yeah.
No, I don't think mate, never did a BRMB. Must have done at some point. I must have done. BRMB radio group, Paul Jackson. Yeah. It's because it's got the... Oh, here it is. Can you see it?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Can you see it? What date are we on here? November 17th, 1998. Thanks for your recent letter, Matt. No vacancies at present, but thanks for your interest in BRMB. Good luck, Paul Jackson.
That was notoriously hard to get into. So
Whatever, Paul Jackson. Whatever. I didn't work at Radio 1. I had a meeting in a pub outside Radio 1. Yeah, I beat that.
brilliant.
Beat that.
I love how you've got a rejection letter from both of our areas. That's actually brilliant.
Yeah, but suddenly it's not just those areas. There's many more areas, yeah.
No, it's just when I talk to radio about someone and I mention the beach, half of the time they don't know what they're on about because it's quite like a local station. But yeah, very strong memories growing up. It's tangent, but I got like how you did with your BBC branded car and you got to drive that around. There was an instance once where you could like sign up on the website and you could get like a ride to school in like the branded, I think it was like a
cool ride to school feature, for example. Mate, been there, mate, been there.
And I think it was meant to be your parents that signed you up, but I want to say that it was me that like typed in the details and like because I was at like
Josh cannot attend the cool ride to school with the beach.
I think I've got the photo somewhere. Hang on. This is such a
I've heard the audio.
Oh yeah,
That's something.
Yeah, there's audio. Should I get the audio out, or is that?
So you were picked up by a presenter who spoke to you on the way to school in this cool ride, and you got to be on the radio, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it was a Dacia Duster, I think it was. I've got the audio somewhere.
The coolest of cars, some may say. But you weren't bothered about the car. You were bothered about the presenter, weren't you, and getting a foot in the door and the radio station. That's all you wanted. You can shove your car to school. I'll walk. Can I get a job?
Right, I'm gonna play the audio out.
Okay, brilliant.
It's recorded through a phone from the car radio, so it's horrendous quality. But
breakfast on the beach. Time for the final one of this day.
Beach Cool Ride to School.
Morning, Paul. This is Beach Patrol Cat here on another cool ride to school. This morning, I'm picking up Josh and we're heading off to... Morning, Josh.
Good morning, Kat.
What is your favourite subject at school?
Probably ICT, because at home I like playing on my tablet, computer, just basically anything technical, really.
Oh, wow, that's great. Well, come on, let's get you to school then. And if you would like the beach to add some sparkle and fun to your son or daughter's school run, then get in touch. All the details are on the website at thebeach.co.uk. This is Beach Patrol Cat from Cool Ride to School.
Hang on a second. I like the way Kat just kind of you kind of skip over everything else there when the word technical was mentioned by Josh. Actually, Josh, I think you need to come into the beach here. Seriously, you can probably teach us a few things. Our computer knowledge is pretty rubbish, to be honest with you.
Oh, definitely.
I do know if I press the big green button that says next, then this song from Moloko plays. That's about it, really. 8:39.
and the only problem is I never took him up on that offer, which I'm still fuming about to this day. I don't know. I think I just like forgot. Anyway, I feel like we're getting sidetracked.
No, this is the best sidetrack ever. This is brilliant.
Yeah, it's great. But again, Josh, the path of your life could have been so different if you'd have, gone in to find his big green button to help him out.
Is this when I admit what I did at WM?
Yeah.
Oh, yep. No. Right, first of all, if anybody who worked at Radio WM in 2014 was involved in this, I'm really sorry. But I went on a BBC tour and I was 9 years old and I went, oh my God, I get to go into a radio station. So with my cousin and we went into WM and I went, because I was a massive nerd, I knew how DERA worked. I knew the whole playout system. I went, great. So none of these people here know how it works, but I do. So I'm just going to sit down in the chair and I'm going to take control of this studio. So this is really bad. So I turned to my right and I'm pressing the buttons. I went, great, I'm just going to press this. And this studio's on air. And I went to do it and the woman that did the tour moved my hand out the way and went, what do you think you're doing? I went, I was just messing with the buttons, honestly. I just didn't know what it did. But inside I'm going...
You played dumb, but inside you'd prepped it.
Yeah.
You'd rehearsed it. You know exactly what was going to happen. Excellent. Yeah. You see, I know people who have taken stations off air on purpose because they got mad and angry. Now, at least yours was, you were young and it was accidental. That's your defence, right?
Accidental. Wouldn't
In
say
air quotes,
that.
heavy air quotes.
Heavy air quotes. Don't sue me. I didn't do anything bad. But yeah, I was so excited. First time I'd ever been in the studio. I was like, oh.
But this is it, isn't it so exciting? This is the whole power of radio because this is what I love about it now is that you don't we all picture different things, don't we? This is why radio storytelling is just brilliant. Even, going back to talking about recording the stories for my relatives in Canada, you say that and you picture a different tape machine, different lounge, different dining room, even the aunt and uncle, what it look like. Everyone's got a different image. And this is why it's so exciting, so powerful, isn't it? I'm picturing the car that Josh was in his Cool Writer School.
I think I've got the photo somewhere.
Why is all this material, Kira, very close to hand for me? Have you noticed?
I know.
It's
almost like he planned
It's because I never shut up about it. That's why.
Now this photo, he's still really clinging on to this Cool Writer School day. It's got the best of his life.
It was 10 years ago.
Everything's been downhill ever since.
God
rest the beach.
Rest in peace. It's actually a funeral home now, which is quite ironic.
Hey, at least my studios are now a block of flats.
Yeah.
Come on.
I hope the same presenter works there on reception still, Josh. I was inviting people in.
This is the photo. I don't know if you can see that.
Cannot see
Of course we can see it. Yeah, there you are.
I don't know if it's really...
Yeah. Oh, you can see it.
What if I put the brightness down? Hang on. Yeah, that's a bit better. There you go.
Look at you. That's where it began.
Nuts. See, now we've entered all of our secrets. This is really bad.
There's a lot in this for you two. This has been quite the therapy session. I've learnt far more about you two than I'd ever dreamt I would.
Yeah, it's turned into more of an interview of us than it has.
No, this is
brilliant. But this always happens, so we're not complaining. Anyways, getting back on topic, after you left Suffolk, what happened next for you?
So after that was a devastating end. That we the good thing about it was that we could move back to Leeds because we bought a flat in Ipswich. We rented out our place in Leeds. We could move back here. My wife's family are from North Yorkshire, so that worked out for us. And a little girl was born here as well, so that was all fine. And I think it was a ballsy email that I sent to Richard Park, who had been my boss previously at Capital. Because that year that followed, I did a year of freelance cover stuff on loads on Capital Yorkshire, Capital Manchester, Capital East Midlands, Capital North East. Whenever there was somebody off on drive or the weekend, I'd do the show. So it was not a bad year. And then towards the end of that year, a guy called James Marriott got in touch with me, who I'd met before when I was at Hallam, and he was in charge of the Links Group stations in Yorkshire. And that was Trax FM for Doncaster, Rother FM, Durn FM, Ridings FM. And they were looking for a breakfast show presenter for Trax. And that's where I started January 2012. I did 5 years on breakfast, followed by 3 years on Durn up until Bauer came in. So I had a good stretch there, a good long stretch to get to know that part, which was the same patch as the Hallam patch, pretty much. So I knew the area really well. And it was breakfast, and I don't think it... I've always thought this and always believed it. I don't think it matters what the station is. I think you do the show the same way. You want to do the best show possible for you, regardless of the logo on the mic. It's you put your all into it, whether you're on Capital Radio, on Hallam or Trax FM. You do the show the best you can, and it was a good chance then to get all the breakfast content out. Of those 5 to 8 years, and I loved that. It was brilliant.
I've seen clips of you in that studio, and you used to put a lot on. I've gone down your Instagram, here we go. And there's clips of you filming yourself in there, and I used to zoom in and go, and what playout system is that?
Did
so
you?
What's the desk?
See, welcome to the geeks. That's what we all do. What are they on? Is that Myriad, Genesis, Zeta? What is it? RCS, Master Control.
I was really bad. I used to zoom in and go, oh, that looks like Myriad. And I'm just going to, that's really bad. I do that with everyone now.
We were trying to figure out what playout system Barnsley Radio was using.
Did you work it out?
Is it playout 1?
Playout 1.
I thought so. Because the
one
website's
photo.
there.
Yeah. I'd not used it before until, during the past few weeks I've been using it a lot. But it's basically Zeta. That's what it is. It's the same as Zeta. And I like Zeta. I'm a huge fan. Oh, this is really geeky now. But there was a massive uproar at Hits when we changed from Dalet into Zeta. Nobody wanted Zeta. They all kicked off. I like it. I think in terms of doing splits and stuff, it's really geeking out. I think it's a blessing.
Well, we use Zeta, so there you go. Zeta came into my life and changed my life, is what I like to say.
Life is better with Zeta, Kira, they say.
There you go.
Hashtag ad.
You're going to get a free one because it's quite pricey, isn't it?
It's like 700 quid.
Yeah, that'd
We
be
get
nice,
it
wouldn't
free now.
It's a version
Please.
of Pay Out One. Help us out at Barnsley.
But you became, I suppose, an icon of Barnsley radio when you were at Dern and...
Well, yeah, kind of. We had a really brilliant last year because I went from Tracks Breakfast to Dern Mid Mornings, and then when Bauer came in and took us over, a lot of people left because they knew the end was coming. But we had this glorious year that then ran into COVID of being what's called held separate, where they couldn't change us or bring us into the Bauer family until it had gone through the courts and stuff. And people went, and I got back on breakfast. And the last year, just over a year, was just the best time because the bosses weren't that bothered about snooping you anymore. There was no, people weren't looking over your shoulder. You could do what you wanted to do. We were trusted to get on with it. And even though lockdown was absolutely horrendous for all of us, it was just me and another guy going in each day to do breakfast shows. So you go in, do your show, go home, and I had a lovely last year there. Wonderful time. And I never ever thought I'd get back on air because when that ended, that was very strange. To go to an off-air job was quite odd all of a sudden.
How was it trying to sort of deal with the COVID pandemic whilst you were on air? Like, how did you deal with that to make sure your listeners were still like enjoying the content and like being informed, say?
I think you've got to be honest. I think you've got to talk about it, and you've got to constantly explain, look, we're here to provide a bit of light relief for you. And you talk, you don't shy away from that stuff. You talk about that serious stuff. We did lots of stuff about it, and we used to get lots of kids on from schools playing games and stuff, and we still got them on the phone and via Zoom and stuff. We just tweaked how we did stuff. But I think what's great about breakfast radio is it's like a soap opera. You're all in it together, and you draw on your own history, and you talk about the life you're all leading. And in terms of content, it was so valuable. It was a chance to get it right, and I pray to God, once in a lifetime thing that happens to us. To not shy away from it, I think, was the only thing you could do.
Yeah. I think radio was so important in lockdown as well. It's the only thing that I could sort of look forward to. I think me and Josh were in a weird year, right? We were both in year 10. Is that right,
Yeah.
Josh?
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, and we were about to go into our GCSE year, and we didn't know what was going on, and it was quite weird. But the one thing that was there for me was radio, really, and just listening to radio. The only thing that was routine for me was radio. Yeah,
and it's so powerful. I've been blown away this week by how many people I've got in touch who recalled me being on the last breakfast show. I was like, that was 5 years ago. It's been a 5-year gap. And they were emailing yesterday on our launch day saying, great to have you back, whatever, welcome back to Barnsley. Because it means so much to those people, because it's 4 hours a day and you learn about each other so very quickly. It's the most powerful medium, will always be.
5 years ago, yesterday I think it was, since Greatest Hits Radio took over from a lot of the local stations.
Is it?
Yeah, 1st of September, at time of recording.
Yeah, no, that's true. It's been, a total 5 years. And it's strange because tomorrow it'll be 15 years since my last Hot Breakfast show.
Wow.
Which is bonkers. But yeah, I can't believe it's been 5 years since Dern closed. It's and doing stuff again now. Like this morning we did the first proper show. It feels like it was 5 minutes ago. It's a weird old thing, time. Don't let it fool you. Don't get trapped in by it. It's a strange old beast.
So after it was absorbed into Greatest Hits Radio, you stayed quite close to the Bauer group, I believe.
I did, yeah, and that was equally as odd. I think I was one of only a few people who kept their job with the company that became Bauer, and this was so strange. What a strange time, because I'd only ever been a presenter since I was 14, right? And it's like, whether it was student radio or BBC stuff or those mad weekends, TFM and Hallam, and the year of after Hot Breakfast of all the capital stations and back to the Links Group, I'd always done 5, 6, sometimes 7 shows a week on the radio, live and or recorded. So to go to doing nothing was the strangest thing. And it was a good job. It was a producer's job that I then quickly became an executive producer, and I went to produce it was Wes and Gemma at Drive, followed by Jordan Lee. And then I was in charge of Rock FM which was Joel, Ross. We had Brad, the producer, there. But I wasn't on air, and it was awful. It was at first it was awful because I was driving from Leeds to Manchester every day, and just thinking about stuff. And it sounds dramatic, and I don't make light of it, but it was honestly like a bereavement. It was like losing somebody, because to not be on the radio now, but you were still prepping as much. You were still segging the songs. You were still the most organised person in the room, the most produced person in the room, the most organised person in the room, but you weren't the presenter. That was the hardest thing ever, and that took a lot of getting used to. The people around me, thankfully, kind of understood what I was going through and were lovely, but that was really hard. And we had, and I always found that hard. We had some good times though at Hits. It was brilliant. I mean, I got to meet Gemma, and then created her podcast. That's I think is still Bauer's most successful podcast. Which was amazing. That was the start of them doing podcasts. I met some lovely people there, but I learned so much so quickly. And the first thing I learned was how hard we worked at the Links FM group, right? Because you're going to a place now where, I mean, some presenters were brilliantly organised, brilliantly prepped, completely on it. But there were quite a few who didn't get it, couldn't work the kit, couldn't prep a show, didn't know how to do stuff, couldn't edit anything. And that can be quite frustrating when you know you can do it and you've done it all for your entire career. That was hard to get your head around. But they're there for different reasons, It's like you'd be on Dern or Tracks Breakfast or Hard Breakfast or Hallam Drive because you could do everything. These people are there because they've got a bit of profile, or because they're a personality, or they're known. They're not there because they're wicked at segging on Zeta. Do you know what I mean? Or can edit a phone call in 30 seconds of a Lewis Capaldi song. And that took a while to get used to, that they're there for different reasons.
And welcome back. So for the past 15 minutes, we've just been talking about things that we cannot keep in this podcast for legal reasons. But we last time you heard us, we were talking about Matt's time at Hits Radio. So what happened after you left Hits Radio very recently?
Yeah, so end of April, I left Hits. And to do my own podcast thing, I had a great time working with Gem on her podcast, and we had a few ideas knocking about. I'd made a few contacts as well from being there, and I thought it took a lot of bravery. I'm not really a brave person, but I thought I'm going to give this a bit of a go now. And a few opportunities presented themselves. I've done a couple of podcasts since, one of them being the Kerry Katona podcast that I did, which has now had 1 million views on socials. And I didn't know how to do stuff like video stuff, or, how to, I didn't know about the whole A-casting and getting podcasts on platforms or thumbnails and stuff like that. And I had to learn all this stuff, and I did it on my own. Bought some wicked kit, did that. We met Kerry because Kerry, I'm sure it's fine if I say this, I'm sure Kerry will be all right with it. She piloted for Gemma's maternity cover when she went to have Tiago. Myself and Mike spent a few months doing loads of demos to loads of people to find a temporary Gemma for a year. And that's how we found Brooke Vincent, lovely Brooke. And Kerry did a demo. And I walked out with Kerry and I said to her, I don't think it's going to be quite right for them for drive. Because, imagine 3 hours of Kerry Katona every day driving home. She got, bloody nightmare. Really wouldn't it, for Mike and the audience. And I said, but let's stay in touch. And we did stay in touch. And then when I think it was one day, I think I was waiting for Mike Toolan to turn up, and I knew that I was leaving to do podcast stuff. And I remember thinking, what can I make happen in the next half an hour? Because I know it's going to be half an hour late. And I phoned Kerry and said, do you want to do a podcast just talking about your life and stuff? And she said, yeah, I'll meet you tomorrow. Met her in the pub the next day. She brought kids with her in a Kermit Green Lamborghini she turned up in. We had a chat, and then about a month later we recorded a podcast. It was a top 10 in Ireland, top 30 in the UK, got 1 million social views. And from doing that, and this is the craziest thing, from doing that, this Saturday, I'm hosting the theatre tour that she's doing with Katie Price, which is bonkers. And I think probably proves that it's how things lead on from other things. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes you don't know the moment you're in, do you? You don't know if it's gonna,
like a sort of domino effect.
Yeah, and it's like you go to a lot of meetings and you meet a lot of people, but you don't know what it's going to lead to. And even though that meeting might feel like nothing at the time, when she came in to record that pilot, I didn't know this would ever happen, because why would you ever think that? and that's this Saturday, and it's exciting and terrifying all in one.
Do you think it's different learning to do the podcasts and like producing a podcast compared to producing a radio show? Like, are there any differences, or is it quite like a similar process?
I think it's. I think a lot of the skills are the same, but I think I think it is different, because what I love about podcasts is that nobody's in charge, right? Nobody has the right answer, and we found this with Making Gemma's podcast. Everybody has a different opinion. Or there should be a bed on that. Don't put a bed on that. That's too long. That's too tight. Well, who's in charge? Because all commercial radio is the same, right? They all talk about the same stuff, all play the same songs, whether they say they do or don't. It's all the same. But the production sounds quite similar. There's one way to do commercial radio, and it works for these massive brands. But for podcasts, no one's opinion is better than anybody else's. It's you can make it however you want. And when I listen to your podcast, I love the gaps, right? The gaps are everything. When it's just long enough, because there's something that's going to come next. It's a bit more engaging, and I love that about it. And when I was making Gemmas, and we had real people on talking about real life stories, and I love how somebody is sat in their conservatory and you can hear the birds singing. Cut the birds out singing. I want the birds in singing. That sounds nice. Someone sat in their shed, and every now and again they'll knock a rake over. I'll cut the rake out, edit it out. No, I want the rake in. It sounds raw. And this is the thing you have. It feels to me like student radio again. It feels like we're all starting different radio stations, and we can all do a different thing a different way. And I love podcasts for that. It's like day one in radio again, isn't it?
Sort of like actuality.
Yeah, I think the skills are different, and I think it's.
Yeah,
I think they are. I think fundamentally you're communicating, you're doing stuff. And then people would always say to me at Bauer, don't make Gemma's podcast sound like a radio show. She sounds like a radio presenter on it. Well, that's because she is. I don't know. You can't be a different person, can you? Fundamentally, you're going to project and communicate in a very similar way. It's hard.
I like the fact that we keep our production so basic, because I hear a lot of podcasts where there's a bed there, but when I first edited the first one, I was like, right, do we want a bed? Do we want special like IDs for it? And we do have imaging for it on air when we play little clips of it, but for the podcast, is that needed? Because to me, if I put random beds in this, it would basically be saying, well, this isn't very interesting to listen to. Here's a bed to keep you interested. It just doesn't make any sense.
Needs a buffer. Yeah. The only thing I find funny is, isn't it amazing how many podcasts do well that have shit microphones and shit sound? Yeah. Who are these people using bloody police radios? Welcome to a podcast. It's good talking to you. Thanks for downloading Lessons podcast. What are you doing? Have you not listened back to it? It's like, let's have the basics there. We've got to be able to hear it. And I hate it when the level changes. Do you know what I mean? So somebody starts stuff like that. It comes like that there towards the end. So you're in your car, your volume's going up and down the whole time.
I've been keeping an eye on my. I've got a microphone from Salford Inspire, which is the. It's our like uni shop thing that we get money for, and I've been trying to keep an eye on my gain for some reason, because it keeps like saying it's peaking when I might be Yeah,
no, but listen. I mean, your mics are fine on your podcast. I've listened, and it doesn't need a bed. Yeah. It doesn't at all.
And that just makes
how
it easier.
How long is this actual podcast going to be? It's going to be under.
I think leave all the clapping in though, because I think that's good. For me, that's made it. You don't need beds. We've got Josh clapping. When he claps, we've said something inappropriate.
Anyways,
let's move on to the present day. Well, yesterday.
Yesterday, what a day! Wow. So this wasn't supposed to happen as well. So I left Hits, did some podcast stuff, and then it was Leanne Dundas who was on Drive on Dern back in the day, and I had a bit of time to meet people and go for lattes and catch up. And I saw her, and then she messaged saying, "Oh, the guys that set up Doncaster Radio and Rotherham Radio are doing a Barnsley one, but they presume that you're in Manchester and you're busy and you don't want to do it." And she said, "So I've told them to give you a call." And they phoned me, and I went to see them in their studios in Mexborough, and we had a bit of a chat. And yeah, they've brought back Barnsley Radio, and it started yesterday, and it's a wonderful, wonderful thing for somebody who I never thought I'd do this again. I mean, I covered Rock FM Breakfast a little bit when I was in charge of Rock with Joel and stuff at Bauer in Castle Key, but I never thought I'd get back to doing regular stuff again. So yesterday was a bit of an emotional day, really, when we got to stuff again, and now we're doing breakfast stuff again. We've got a few outside broadcasts coming up, and people are still there. It's like they've not listened to anything else for the past 5 years. They've been waiting, and it feels like we're picking up from where we left off, which is a beautiful thing. And it's got a bit of an audience. I've done all the test transmission stuff on their new playout system, and I can do stuff from home. I'm the last person in the world to be excited about working from home, because I've spent 5 years on the M62 from Leeds to Manchester every bloody day. So to be able to do radio stuff from my dining room table is such a thrill. It's brilliant. It's so good. So I'm so happy that it's back, and it's a great team there. And it's probably a little bit crazy in it, starting a radio station in 2025 when there's so many stations out there already. And it takes a lot of bravery. And it's not me being the brave one, I'm just being the gob on the stick. But the team have just done a brilliant job, and I hope it works out because I like it. It's good fun.
I love the social bits
listening
as well. Just to jump in,
Yeah.
the social bits that you did. But we know someone who helped with that. But it looked, because this is quite funny actually, because we'd sort of sorted this interview out with you, and then Tom Sharp, who
Yes.
put a photo on with you in it, and I text Tom going, "You'll never guess what."
No way. Yeah, no, he was brilliant. And this is it now. I've met so many nice people from doing this. I'm back in Barnsley again. Yeah, and it's I hope it works out. You know, I was really impressed with yesterday. It's Stuart Nicholson who was he did breakfast on Rother FM, and then he set up Doncaster Radio, Rotherham Radio, Barnsley Radio, and I mean this. The outside broadcast kit he had yesterday was better than one of our Hits Live shows. I mean, it was phenomenal. The branding, he's forked out for money on. The link didn't cut out once between the OB location and back at base. And he's bought mics with compressors in. He's got blooming roadcasters all over the shop in this market yesterday. It was great. So I'm liking doing back in the day. So I used to do Tracks and Dern, and Stuart would be next door in the Rother studio. And so he knew I was quite a fan of breaking the rules, right? Because the Links FM group was a brilliant group, but they played some shite. I mean, they did. They had some shit on their playlist, and they were the home of the novelty song. You couldn't get through a show without a bit of Gina G, or some Bewitched, or Sean Kingston used to make a lot of an appearance on the. I don't know why, and I noticed that there's a few of those songs creeping in on the Playout ones of Barnsley Radio, so I deleted them. And I changed them for the songs. And I said to Stuart, I'm just going to carry on now I used to be before. He said, that's fine. Do what you need to do. It's fine. So I'll probably get told off at some point for deleting some of the songs. If you ever hear a song by Go West, the Boy Meets Girl song from 1988, Waves of a Star to Fall, that's me. Anything by James, that's me. Those killer 80s anthems, Foister's changed it. He's probably taken out something that's, irrelevant.
I wouldn't call Bewitched or Gina G irrelevant. I think they're quite
novelty songs, aren't they? I mean, you know what I mean?
So if you could go back to the very beginning whilst you're in the supermarket wearing your Radio 1 merch.
It wasn't a supermarket, Josh. It was a DIY store.
It's like B&Q, Josh.
Josh, come on, pay attention, will you? Flicking through your photos.
Right, I'll do that again.
The crew from the beach and your cool ride to school.
If you could go back to Homebase to be fair, Sainsbury's, Homebase is in Sainsbury's, so I'm not like fully out of the question, but if you could go back to your DIY store, if you could go back to the beginning of your career whilst you're wearing all of your Radio 1 merch and give yourself one piece of advice, what would that one piece of advice be?
It would be just take your time. Right, because I think, and it's so hard, isn't it? Because when you're young, like you guys now, you're so keen to get on. You want to get there. You want to move quick and do things. But actually, taking the time to look around and appreciate where you are and appreciate what's happening, I think is really valuable. And it makes you a bit more mature and a bit more grounded as well. And also, and I hate myself for saying this, but it's okay to stick to the rules. When I was young and even getting to Capital, not always a fan of the rules. It's all right to stick to the rules. You might not agree with the rules or like the rules, but it might actually help you out and get you places.
Oh, well, this has been really lovely and
I love this.
Incredible, and I don't think I'll ever forget this one. And also, I feel like I've slightly redeemed myself. I can tell this story because I'm not slagging anyone else off, but There was last year. This must have been June last year. I came in and they sort of had us upstairs. It's something to do with like KFC. And I went, great, I can get into Castle Key. I'm gonna like apply for this. Went in and I was upstairs the whole time, and they made us do these boring activities. And it was about like, oh, so what do you want to do with your career? We're sat in a radio station. What would you like to do with your career? And then I went down to the toilets and I saw you, and I went, oh my god, it's Matt Foister. And I just like in my head went, it's Matt Foister. And I couldn't go over to you because I wasn't allowed.
Well, who was not allowing this?
It was like sort of the company, and I was like, oh my god, I need to. He's there. I have like
you should have come and said
50
hello.
questions.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
So you were upstairs in that boardroom, doing some stuff. We were downstairs doing driveway. Was it Mike and Gemma?
Yeah. And I was like, oh my god! But no one else recognised you. Like, who's that? And I went, it's Matt Foister. I really want to speak to him. I know. And I've had many of these situations where I've like
seize the moment.
Didn't
That's
do
it. Just say hello.
So I've
and people are people, and if they're twats, then they're not worth knowing, are they? Do you know what I mean? Take a risk. Say hello to anybody.
Oh, but it feels nice now because I'm.
You should have said hello. Yeah. Well, this is it. We what's really interesting is when I was at Hits working on Drive with Mark and Gemma and Wes and Gemma, we had a whole mixture of people that would come in to say hello, or people that were actually there on work experience who give other people a really bad name for themselves. We had somebody come in once on work experience, and they walked in the studio, and their first question was in front of Wes and Gemma, what do you do in this room? And are you guys, when are you guys on? I said, we're on now. And this girl said, oh, and have you guys worked here long? I said, well, this is Gemma Atkinson, this is Wes, and I'm their producer. And that's embarrassing, isn't it? Now, why are you in a radio station? Why are you in a studio not knowing who's on air?
Yeah. No.
I mean, fair enough, me and Wes are nobodies. But you'd recognise Gemma, wouldn't you? You'd hope. And I thought that's...
Well, you recognise Wes, surely, if you're a certain age, because he was on Radio 1. So
and then there's you, who knows people who, wouldn't come and say hello. This is it. And it's...
Well, no, actually, in this same day, they took us down, and Dave Rothwell, love him, took us round the sort of studio, and it was one of Gemma and Mike's reads were on there, and like, oh, let's get people to do it. And I did it, and they went, well, you all need to get out now, because Gemma, Mike and Matt are coming in, so you all need to get out. And I'm like, but do I have to?
You could have stayed. You could have helped Mike work better. Leave that in.
Yeah.
Hello, Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Should get him on the podcast.
You should get Toolan on, actually. You should get Toolan on. He'd be a good guest. He would. As would Joel. Joel would be a great guest. Joel would do it. I'll tell you now, Joel will do it. If I tell him to do it, he'll do it. He'd be brilliant.
Well, can you tell him to do it? Because we've tried to get Joel. And
have you? Did he say no?
Well, he said he'd only do it if he was drunk. So...
Yeah, but I mean, that's most hours. So catch him on one of those.
Oh,
he'll do it. Joel will do it. You should get Joel on. I can't believe we were so close to meeting Kieran.
I know.
You've been slightly braver.
Oh, no, I just didn't want to get told off. I was like, but I'm there and...
But also there's this. What Josh doesn't know is I was the person driving the car that day for the beach as I took him to school with his mates. And it's been many years, Josh. I'm glad it worked out for you, and look how you're flourishing.
It's like an episode of the Jeremy Kyle Show. And on that note, let's end it there. Matt Foister, you have been absolutely brilliant. Thank you for driving me to school that one time.
Keep up the great work. This is a great podcast.